Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our presentation, Writing a Winning Resume. My name is Cliff Guerin. I will be your host today from the Career Professional Development Center, and I'm glad that you joined us for this presentation. If you need to get up, if you've returned to work after the holiday, um, if you need to leave the room for any reason, that's perfectly fine. Please take care of any needs you have. As I said earlier, you will get a copy of the recording, so you can go back and review anything that you might have missed. And after the presentation, if you have any lingering questions or new questions, you can always send those to us. And our email is there at the bottom, careers@wgu.edu. So today, we're going to talk about resumes. And this might be a review for some, especially if you've gone through any of our other presentations or you've gone through the resume course. And I'll show you where that is. That is a required element if you want a resume review from our team. I'll show you where to find that material. We'll talk about applicant tracking systems. We'll talk about AI, of course, and a little bit of ChatGPT and how that can be used responsibly for helping out with your resume. We'll do a walkthrough, a sample resume. We'll look at the importance of a job description. We'll review some resume do's and don'ts. And as I said earlier, if you have any lingering questions, we'll have a Q&A at the end of the presentation. So let's jump right into those applicant tracking systems, or ATS, as they're commonly known. This is the first round that recruiters will use when you're applying to a job. Back in the day, at the very beginning of these applicant tracking systems, they were used by some recruiters, especially if they had very heavy applicants. There were, a lot of applicants coming through to apply to jobs. They needed a way to go through those resumes, application, all the things that are turned in to apply to a particular job. So they would parse through the resumes. They would be programmed to pick out only the specific qualifications, and then they would reject the rest. So it would bring hundreds, literally hundreds of resumes down to a little bit more of a manageable number. Now today, they're still used for that purpose, but they're also used to really streamline that vetting process, if you will, for the companies. So for you and for me as applicants, we're applying to particular jobs, there are two things you want to keep in mind that are pretty important. One is try to avoid using a template to find online. That's easy to do. It could be just sort of a plug and play, put your information on a resume, make it a lot easier to get through, and then apply to multiple jobs. Just boom, 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 apply, apply, apply. Why that's not a good idea is that a lot of the resume templates that are out there are typically created by desktop publishers, artists, but not career advisors, not a career coach or a resume writer. So there are certain themes that are movable, if you will. There's some gray areas with resume formatting, but there are also some that are not, some that, like your name and your contact information. That's always going to go at the top of your resume, right? It may sound optional. I don't think it is, but I think that summary of qualifications is also important. And that's going to go at the top of your resume. It's going to be kind of your 30-second commercial, your introduction, and the purpose of sending a resume to a particular job. So that can all be answered at that summary. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Now, the one thing you do want to also keep in mind, and those job descriptions and how they're helpful, is that you'll find the keywords that will be scanned when you're applying to particular jobs. I always get students that will ask, what are employers looking for on a resume? What should I include and what should I leave off? That job description is going to be pretty important to help you answer that question. What you use are the required keywords and qualifications that will make you qualified for the position. What you leave off are things that are probably irrelevant, or you minimize it to where it doesn't take up a lot of room or space on your resume. If your resume has a low match rate, then that may be kicked out of the review process. And so you want to be really careful. That's why we do resume reviews. That's why we brought on JobScan, which I will talk about JobScan in just a moment, and how those can be helpful for you as you're preparing your application materials. Now, a little bit of a deeper dive with those applicant tracking systems. Again, if it's over stylized, too formatted, it's hard to read. So recruiters may not even see the important information that you're trying to transmit to them. Now, PDFs are okay. So PDFs may make it through that those applicant tracking systems, but when you turn a resume in for review to us, you do not want to send a PDF. You want to send a Word document because we need to make notes on that. If you're in doubt on if an employer will accept a PDF or Word document, make sure you're reading the entire job description from top to bottom, because those instructions should be included on those job descriptions. Things you do want to leave off of a resume are columns, color tables, styled elements that would be considered not ATS friendly, headers and footers, text boxes. Some ATS scans will not be able to read inside these, and I'm hearing that back from recruiters to say, it doesn't look like we can read the entire resume, so it needs to be sent back to the writer or to the student. We don't want that to happen. So to get around that, just use a clean Word document that should ensure the readability for those applicant tracking systems. We have samples of resumes for every degree program here at WGU, and I will show you where to find those if you want an example of what it should look like. Now, when we're talking about the use of AI or ChatGPT, it is perfectly okay to use those GPT platforms. And I'm going to show you some examples of what's out there. And I'm going to show you an example of Copilot and how that, not Copilot, Copilot's one that's out there, but JobScan and how that could be helpful for you. It's not cheating. It's not taking a shortcut, but you do want to avoid having it create a sample resume and just using it at face value. You want to look for biases. You want to look for errors. You want to look for what's called hallucinations. That's when that AI platform may not understand fully the prompt or what you're asking for it to do. And so it just kind of fills in the gaps. Plus, you want this to sound like you and not a robot. So you want to read it for your tone, your way of communicating. Again, any errors, anything like that. So proofread, proofread, proofread. But if you need something to get started and you need some brainstorming ideas, then those ChatGPT platforms and AI can be helpful. Now, some interesting facts I thought I'd share with you. Fact number one, 60%, these have probably changed, right? So these are probably higher than when I first put this together. 60% of job seekers have used AI tools for resume writing. That was taken in 2024. It's almost a year later. And so I'm sure that number has risen. Interesting fact number two, a resume optimized by AI has, I'm going to say, more than 20% chance, a higher chance of moving to the next level. 75% of candidates use AI tools to practice interview questions, and we have that in Big Interview. That's part of what we have as far as resources you can use. And probably more than 60% of candidates use AI to help them draft a cover letter as well. JobScan can also do that as well. It can help you with your cover letter. It can also help you with your LinkedIn profile. That's off topic a little bit, but it's all contained in JobScan, which is designed mostly to help you with your resume. 80% or more companies are using some form of AI for initial resume screening. So that's going to be those applicant tracking systems that will have AI built in. There's really not a way or necessarily a good reason to try to get around that. What you want to do is get through it. So learning how to get through it is learning how those AI tools work. What are they that's out there? There are many more and more that are becoming available. How can you use them to your advantage? That's the key to these AI tools. Now, other benefits that we're hearing back, why should I use it? Why can't I just get a simple resume review from the WGU Career Services team? You certainly can. That absolutely is not a problem whatsoever. But we're also hearing that these AI tools are very helpful in saving time. So they can be used to research. They can be used on your existing resume, again, as a way to start or to enhance your current resume, save some time in that. It is really helpful with keyword optimization. So when you're uploading your resume and also a job description, and you're giving it the prompts to help you identify the key or the top keywords to be used in your resume, that keyword optimization can really help you to tailor your resume to fit that job. Because remember, one size does not fit all. You may think, hey, resume writing can be daunting. It could take a lot of time, even if I'm using an AI tool. So I'm just going to make it easier, and I'm just going to use maybe those automated practices that just apply to many, many jobs with just a click of a button. Again, if you're not optimizing your keywords throughout your resume, that one click of the button may not be helpful. Here's the key that something's not working. If you come back, say you come back to us to say, I've applied to dozens and dozens and hundreds of jobs and I get no response whatsoever, then something's going on. And that's why we want to talk about these things with your resume, because as you know, your resume is the first impression to an employer. And that one size click of a button may not fit the purpose of that particular job description. I keep saying that, but I want to really make it clear with that. So it's that important. The other use of those AI tools is that they can give you feedback, and they can do that match rate and kind of score your resume. And with JobScan, I'm going to show you a video on an introduction to JobScan that I think might be helpful. Here are some tools that's out there, and you can find these online. Big Interview and JobScan is from us. We have that available for you. But if you want to put it through a couple of different ones just to see what the different results could be, here are some examples. Resume AI, Pick Resume, Resi.ai, Jobalytics. We get a lot of good feedback on Jobalytics to be helpful. And you can always find these to be able to use and kind of give them a test run. Now, I just wanted to share some example prompts with ChatGPT, for example. These can be used with any of the other platforms. If You want to learn how, how do I write these bullet points and make them a little bit more interesting? Here's a prompt, rewrite this bullet point to be more impactful and include metrics, especially metrics if you were in a job and you want to be able to quantify results to show success. Metrics can help you. Ask it to suggest some strong action verbs from the job description to use on your resume. Based on the job description, what are the most important skills I should highlight? Write a resume summary based on the job description and my experience below. Now, you see those 3 hash marks? Those 3 hash marks can be used if you're listing your job description and then the prompts to tell the AI how to use the job description. Those 3 hashtags in between the job description and your prompt tells the AI, do not include the job description as part of the answer. I found that out and I thought that was really very interesting. So you don't want the job description to be part of your question and then the answer. You just want the AI to use it and then create a new result or a new answer. So those 3 hashtags in between your resume and job description and your prompts tells it, do not include the resume and job description as part of the answer. But you do want to go back again and review for biases, hallucinations, make sure you're tailoring the result to you individually, and proofread for any errors or weird sounding results. Now, let's go to JobScan. So JobScan is something that we bought into. It's now part of our resources that you can find on our homepage. You have a premium subscription to JobScan already. All you need to do is when you go to JobScan and you log in, use your WGU credentials. It unfortunately won't merge with any other subscriptions. If you have JobScan on your own from maybe another school or just yourself, unfortunately, we can't merge the two profiles, the 2 accounts. You'll have to start from scratch with your WGU credentials. When you do that, you'll get unlimited scans of your resume and your cover letter. You'll get a job tracker to help you keep track of the jobs you apply to through JobScan, for example. You can even, as I said earlier, use your LinkedIn URL and have JobScan look and scan your LinkedIn page to see if your profile matches up to the jobs that you want to apply to, or does it look good? Is it optimized to be used as part of your application? What the JobScan company tells us is that the use of their product and making sure that your resume is optimized has yielded from their data 3 times more interviews, 132% more LinkedIn profile views, and 46% shortened time to the interview invitation. So if these are accurate, this is the hope that this product can help you when you're applying to jobs and using these features. Now, let's watch a video. This is from JobScan and how they explain the use of this for you. I'm going to click it. I may have to pull it over to the screen, but I want you all to watch the video.
Welcome to JobScan. My name is Sydney, and I'm going to show you a full walkthrough of the JobScan match rate report. After you scan your resume and the job listing for the job you want to apply for, you'll see your match rate report. JobScan gives you an instant analysis of how well your resume is tailored for a particular job and how to optimize it for applicant tracking systems or ATS. The match rate you see here is based on how well your resume matches up with the job description you entered. We recommend aiming for a match rate of 75% or higher. The first section you'll see here is searchability. Since companies use applicant tracking systems to track and manage candidates, you want to make sure that your resume can be understood by that system. Remember, it's a computer, so it doesn't read documents the way humans do. If a recruiter uses an ATS to search for certain keywords or skills, you want to make sure that the ATS understands that those keywords are on your resume and that you match the search parameters. And by the way, if you see a notice here to add missing scan information, all you have to do is click on that link and type in the URL from the company website for the job you're applying for and the company name. The JobScan system will automatically detect which ATS that company is using and give you guidance on how to optimize your resume accordingly. The report will also tell you if other important resume text like contact info, education info, and dates are searchable. The next two sections on your match report show you hard and soft skills that are listed in the job description. Hard skills especially play a major role in hiring decisions, so adding the skills listed here have a high impact on your match rate. The report will show you how many times a skill is mentioned in the job description and how many times it's mentioned on your resume. You can click on a skill to see it in the context of the job description. That might help you better understand exactly what the recruiter will be looking for. You might also see predicted skills in this list. Our system is trained to predict skills that a hiring manager might look for based on the kind of job you're applying for. These skills aren't in the job description, but they are commonly mentioned in similar job descriptions, so you might consider adding them to your resume. To get the best results, use these skills list as a guide for optimizing your resume for an ATS, but also the recruiter. Rather than simply writing these words on your resume, use the skills list to inform what you highlight in your work experience section, what measurable results you talk about, and what projects you focus on. There are other keywords listed here as well. These include company-specific jargon, buzzwords, or industry lingo. Including them might help your resume get noticed, but these keywords have a low score impact. Next, you'll see recruiter tips. We surveyed professional recruiters and got their feedback on what they look for in a resume. Remember, after optimizing for an ATS, you also need to optimize for the human that's going to look at your resume. Is there enough information? Do you include measurable results? It's important to include these things on your resume, but note that these tips do not impact your match rate because they apply to every single job that you apply for. Lastly, JobScan will check your formatting to make sure it's ATS friendly and human friendly. Use these tips to make sure that the ATS can correctly parse the text on your resume and that the recruiter or hiring manager can easily read the text. As you follow these tips, your match rate will increase. JobScan includes several tools to help job seekers get more interviews, including cover letter optimization, LinkedIn optimization, and more. We'll discuss these features in separate videos. To get started, go to jobscan.co and get your free match rate report today.
All right. So a couple of things I wanted to highlight. One is you don't need to go and get a free sample or a free match rate. You've got the premium account already. I'll show you where to go to find that on our website. Also, as they were talking about the keywords, you do want to put that in context. So you don't want to just list the keywords or just, have a couple of phrases. You really want to have an accomplishment statement that puts that particular skill into context so that the recruiter can understand how it was used and how you understand it. So, as she said also earlier, you're really writing your resume for two audiences. One is the ATS, making sure it's going to get through that process. When it does, the recruiter will probably print out your resume. So the second audience is the recruiter. You want it to look professional. You want it to look nice and clean. That's why some templates are not really good to be used because it could look too busy or cluttered. Now what I want to do is pull over and where you can see our homepage. This is our homepage. Right up front is JobScan. So we have that, and this will be visible for a while as we get new students coming in. So that's easily seen and found. All you got to do is click it. So you just click on that page, and it will take you to the JobScan materials. You can log in. Again, the numbers of how it stands out. You can look at other demo videos. So if you want to know more about your resume score, you can click that here. If you want to know what to get out of the premium level, you can look at that video. I mentioned the job tracker if you want to understand how that works. So you see all the different videos that we've included for you to have access to. Other additional resources, again, more tutorials on how to use JobScan are available. If it's something that is technical, that's a problem or issue, you can certainly contact us. We may not be able to get behind the scenes, so we have a JobScan support line here for the company, the JobScan company, to help you out. But that is our new feature to help you with your resume. Now, I mentioned earlier that we'll go over a sample resume. Here's one that we have put together. You see typical information, your name at the top, contact information. What's missing is your city and state. And I still would include your city and state on your resume so that employers, will know where you're coming from. And I still hear that from recruiters. They like to see that contact information. Now, let me stop here for a minute. If you're using your resume and you're using another ChatGPT or AI platform, take this information out. Do not include your contact information when you're using any kind of ChatGPT. That does not include JobScan. I'm talking about something like Copilot, ChatGPT, something like that. Because those platforms are learning, we're teaching them by every time we use it for something, and it's recording that data. So you don't want them to have your personal information as part of that learning process. Now back to the resume. So that professional summary at the top, again, it's just a brief description of your current position, or what you're looking for, your current orientation, if you will, or trajectory for your career. You can certainly use your past experiences, especially if you're a career changer. That could be helpful, but you want to put it in the context of what do you want to do. Now, your professional experience can go next, or if you're in the School of Technology or you want to highlight your technical expertise, you can do a technology summary or technology profile. That could be very helpful. If you're a career changer, you might want to list projects that are relevant to your degree program, to your next career step, especially if your prior or previous employment doesn't really match what you want to do. It still needs to go on your resume, but it may not go at the top. It may be pushed down toward the bottom, so you have room at the top to list more relevant information. Now, as we were talking about those keywords and the context and accomplishment statements, they don't have to be very long or detailed, but you do want to give them some context, and that's why we call them accomplishment statements, to show your success. We have some examples here. If you can quantify and use numbers or metrics, that's great. That's always a plus. If you don't worry about it, but if you can, that would be a really good idea. At the very least, you can use the formula I have at the bottom of starting with an action verb, a task, and a result. The result could simply be, qualified instead of quantified. It could be, what you did that helps to increase, customer retention, for example. This is just the other part of the resume. Your education section, you want to list in kind of this format your degree, list it out fully. Don't just put BS in accounting. You want to put Bachelor of Science in accounting. Again, if that applicant tracking system is looking for specific key words that's spelled out, you want to make sure you're giving it what it's asking for or what the expectation would be. Then the date of your expected graduation or whenever you graduated. Then to give this a nice clean look, I would say put the school on a second line, not everything on the same line. So Western Governors University, Salt Lake City, Utah. And again, if you're a career changer or you want to highlight your degree in the context of the job you're applying to, this is optional, but you could list maybe 2, 3, 4 of your higher classes. You don't have to describe what they were. Most recruiters will know that, and that's okay. But if you want to add that to give it a little bit more oomph, if you will, and maybe a capstone project that you have completed or you're entering into your capstone project. And as a separate section, I would list your certifications, just so that they're kind of framed in their own section, if that makes sense. Now, here's the other part of your education section. If you have a master's degree or you're going for a master's, you do include your bachelor's regardless of what it was in, but you do not include an associate's degree. And the reason behind that is that today's hiring process, the minimum they're going to look for is a bachelor's degree. They won't even consider an associate's. So you want to just save that room and save your time and just include your bachelor's or your master's and a bachelor's. If you have a bachelor's degree from a different school and it's really not relevant to what you want to do now, then don't list it. Save that space on the page for what's most relevant. 2 pages is okay. It's not a deal breaker. If you're a career changer and you want to stick to just 1 page because your prior details are not really that important as they once were, then you can look at a 1-page resume. Going back in your work history, the maximum, 10 to 15 years. Again, if it's not relevant, but you still need to list your work history to show your work ethic, that you can hold down a job. That's how employers will look at that section of your resume. Now, if you're concerned that you're going to put information on there from prior jobs that may turn a recruiter off and just may not really look good, you're concerned about that, then maybe a skills-based resume would be a better format. And that's where you still have your contact information, you still have a professional summary, but it's more aspirational. Aspiring software engineer pursuing a bachelor's degree in an accredited university, workable knowledge of Python, C#, C++, things like that. Then your education, and then maybe some projects you've worked on, or some specific skill sets that are related to your degree and now what your, as I said, the trajectory of your next step in your career. Then at the bottom is just the work history. Your position, company name, city and state, and then your dates of employment. No bullet points, no details, because the more important part you want to save room for would be that center part of the skills-based resume. We do have other examples on our resume page. The School of Business, if you open that up, you'll be able to find a functional slash skills-based resume. Now, some quick do's and don'ts. This is a summary of some of the things we talked about earlier. So again, your resume, you don't need to put a title. You don't need to put the title of marketing manager. You know, that's going to be your name and contact information. Use a classic font like Calibri, Arial, Times New Roman, things like that. If possible, as I just said, if you can limit your resume to one page, that's fine. If it's a page and a half or 2 pages, that's not a deal breaker. Maintain consistency in formatting. So make sure your fonts are all the same size, from the same fonts. Don't mix up your fonts. Your bullet points are lined up nice and neat. That's what I mean by consistency. Be intentional with your content. You know, customize it to the targeted job that you're applying to. Use the job postings as your guide, again, those keywords. Remembering that one size does not fit all jobs. And then to the right side, things you want to avoid is just copying a list of keywords, turning the text white so they disappear, but they're still found by the ATS. That's not a good idea because it's considered by some as cheating. If you're found out for whatever reason, you probably would not be selected. Listing references upon request no longer go on resumes. Again, avoiding tables, text boxes, borders. Obviously, no pictures of any kind, no images or icons or graphics. Avoid the use of personal pronouns like I, me, my, we, our. It's just the writing style of a resume that you do not need to write in first person or third person like that. And then the lowest you can go on your font size would be 10 point, and that's perfectly okay. Using even 12 point throughout your resume would make your resume look a little too big and it could look too cluttered. So keeping it around that 10 point, 11 point would probably be a good place to land, so to speak. Now, I included a sample job description just to give you an idea of what kind of I was talking about earlier with, again, when you're reading a job description, what I did is that I took some of the keywords that are probably some of the more important that you want to make sure that's on your resume. I put those in red. And then the ones that seem to be repeated, I bolded in red. So reading the entire job description is going to be important so you know exactly what the gist of the job will be, how you match a particular role, and then what you should be including on your job description the job description on your resume or cover letter. Now, again, let me pull over our homepage. I've mentioned it several times. I just want to make sure you understand where to find. So here's what our homepage will look like. You can go right over to build your brand. This is where you'll find the resume page and resume resources. When you click that and you scroll down, you'll find JobScan again. You'll find the information to log in. And then this is where you'll find what you need for a resume review. If you want our team to review your resume, don't just send it in. You'll need to go through these steps. At least step 1 and step 2. Step 1 is the resume course. And remember, you will need to have the completed self-review form, which is part of the resume course. So you'll send in to us 2 things: the completed resume review form and your resume that has gone through the course, gone through JobScan, you've made any kind of tweaks, and now it's time for a human to look at your resume for a review. The templates are divided up by school: business, education, technology, and health. When you open up, let's look at the School of Business, you'll see where you can download any of the resumes and the samples to use. From the School of Business is where you would find this functional or skills-based resume to download. And if you are a veteran, you can find one that's based on your military service. Same with the School of Technology, Levitt School of Health, you'll always find that. These other steps are just additional resources you can look at. I know I talked about the accomplishment statements. If you want more information, you can find that here. If you want a sample or a list of action verbs to use on your resume, we've included that. Another workshop that we recorded if you want to go through that material. Do's and don'ts, we made into a video. Featured articles that are taken from kind of going through the internet that our website picks up, and also other videos that we have put together as well. So pretty comprehensive, pretty in-depth. Wanted to make sure you knew where that was found. Again, I'm going to scroll up to the top. It's found under Build Your Brand. You can also find the cover letters, LinkedIn materials, what personal branding is, and even portfolios. Each of these will have their own videos as well. So scrolling down to LinkedIn, here is how to build a strong LinkedIn profile. So we wanted to make it really comprehensive for you to find that material. And that is our demonstration. Now, I've talked a lot, and if you joined us late, you will be able to see and receive a video of this presentation. I will be sending that out. It will be a YouTube link. Once we have that completed, it will go out in an email for everyone who registered. But if you brought questions today, or this opened up questions for you today, I'm going to invite you to put your question in the chats. WebEx has muted all of our attendees today, but we do have that chat feature. Go ahead and let me know if you have any questions. If you don't have any questions and you have gotten the material you needed, you are perfectly free to go. Here is our follow-up information. If you want to, again, find our website, email us. If you call in, you will actually get to our voicemail, and we will call you back either that same business day or the next business day. Yes, there's a lot of information on the site. You're right. I would start with, what is your immediate need? So if your immediate need is, hey, I want to follow up with the resume review, the example, then go to that Build Your Brand, click on the resume link, and start there. So that's probably one of the better ways to make that decision is, what is your immediate need right now? If it's job searching, then you can go to Handshake and then making sure your Handshake profile is optimized. Things of that sort. Okay, Janine has a question. A company has multiple job openings with different titles. I qualified for several of them. Do I need to apply to each one separately? Yes, I think so, because each separate one will have their own way that they route the job application materials for that. What I'm hearing from recruiters is that that's okay. You can apply to multiple jobs at the one company, but you want to make sure that your resume and or cover letter is tailored to that, to each individual job. Things like that. So, as far as your age, if you're concerned about that, that's why you want to make sure that you're giving more weight to your qualifications, cover letter. You don't need to say over 20 years experience. You can say significant experience, and give some examples of on that cover letter, for example, examples of projects you've worked on. Now, when it gets to your work history and you're concerned about that, I'm hearing from recruiters that it's not as much of an issue today as it once was. Um, it's just going to have to be a calculated risk or a calculated effort as you're applying to different jobs. Some will say once you go back 10 or 15 years, other people have said I've included a separate section called additional experience, and I didn't include my dates in the additional experience. But I wanted to let them know that I did have some experiences that are relevant to this current position. If that makes sense. And yes, Ariana, volunteer experience can most definitely be included, especially if it really is relevant to what you want to do. And you want to show them that you have a well-rounded experience, not just paid jobs, but also you volunteered for other organizations. It can go in a separate volunteer section, just especially if you want to highlight that. No, Rahini, there is not a limit. It's you have unlimited scan, so there should not be a limit to any of the resumes or cover letters that you post. Let me get that out. Thanks for the question. Very good question. All right, folks. Very good. You're very welcome. I'm glad that you joined us. Again, you will get a copy of the recording if you want to review this. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.